Hi everybody, welcome to Queer from the Couch on the Queer Network. My name is Justin Gerhard. This week on the couch we have a special guest, Reverend Brent Hawkes, who is the former pastor of MCC Church in Toronto. He's also an LGBT activist globally. Welcome to the couch.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We want to talk about what it's like. You are the former pastor of MCC, so what's it been like since you retired?
Amazing.
Yes?
Amazing. I loved what I did for 40 years. Felt a huge privilege, a huge honor to do what I did for 40 years. Felt good about what I did. But it was time for me, and time for the church. And now to have time to choose to do what I want to do, to really focus on what I like doing. I've always wanted to do more in terms of international human rights, but couldn't get to it because the church was so large. The Metropolitan Community Church of Toronto, 500-600 people on a Sunday, 20 staff, full and part-time.
How does it feel to be not there every week, like that sort of intimacy that you had with the church?
I miss the community.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed having time to visit my family, and John and I having time to travel, to do some things has been great. Time to sleep in has been wonderful. But I really miss the community. I miss the people getting together.
So what are some of the new things that you're working on?
Okay. I had a sabbatical a few years ago, and I went to New York, Washington, and Geneva, and I met with most of the international LGBT organizations. And I, with my collar on, said, my impression is that you're proudly secular and that you see religion as the enemy.
Yep.
And they all said yes. And I said that you're doing nothing to work with gay, lesbian Christians or Muslims or Jews. And they said nothing. And I said, so if I started an international organization whose sole purpose was to confront religious-based homophobia, how do you change hearts and minds? It's not about advocacy. How do you change laws? I've done that. I fought. You win some, you lose some.
Yep.
Not that. But how do you change hearts and minds? Because one of the reasons why we've been so successful in Canada around achieving LGBT human rights has been because of the role of our church. Because we've confronted religious-based homophobia. In Canada and around the world, one of the major oppositions to LGBT human rights is religious-based. And so I said, if I started an organization to change hearts and minds, would you work with me? And they all said, absolutely. Amazing. And they said, this is the missing piece. And so the Rainbow Faith and Freedom movement is what we're starting. The email address is RainbowFaithandFreedom@gmail.com. And it's going to have three kind of key strategies. Certainly we'll be doing lots of research, raising lots of money. But the three strategies are, first, to develop faith-based resources. So what resources would help to change Christian hearts and minds? Or Jewish hearts and minds, or Muslim or Hindu hearts and minds?
And when you say hearts and minds, do you mean changing somebody's opinion of the queer community, or within the church to change, like to be more welcoming of queer people?
Both. I think if you have more congregants who are gay positive, or who will at least be neutral and not be in opposition, who will help to make sure that their kids can still be a part of the family when they come out, who will try to make sure that their churches are still accepting, so their kids can still go to church and not be discriminated against at church. So if we can change hearts and minds, we will change the atmosphere at home. We will change the atmosphere at church. We will change the atmosphere at work when you change hearts and minds.
And change the community.
And so what kind of resources do we need? What kind of YouTube presentations? What kind of testimonials? What kinds of interviews with parents, with academics, with scholars, with religious leaders, with famous people? The second strategy is we'll pick 5 uniquely placed countries in the world that have an impact on the region, so they're not an isolated country, and that have some kind of LGBT infrastructure, so there's a community to work with. And we'll meet with activists in those countries. We'll say, in Jamaica, the public opinion polls tell us something like 83% of the population are opposed to gay rights for religious reasons. We'll sit down with activists on the ground. We'll say, opposition's at 83%. Let's develop a 20-year strategy to change that from 83% to 49%. And we'll try things, and we'll see what's working. We'll compare it to the other countries to see what's working. And, just think about it. Just in Jamaica, if we reduce that opposition from 83% to 49%, then over a third of the families in Jamaica will have shifted from being homophobic to being accepting. And that will have an impact on churches. That will have an impact on businesses, etc. And then the third strategy is we've got to clean up our own backyard. And the Human Rights Campaign in Washington, D.C., when they first started out, they developed a really interesting strategy of a rating system to rate Fortune 500 companies. And so they rated them in 10 questions, probably things like, do you hire openly LGBT people? Do you have sensitivity training? Do you do benefits, etc.? And the first year after they published it, only a few companies like IBM scored well. Most scored really bad.
Okay.
But very quickly the competition started.
Absolutely.
Very quickly the gay people who worked for those companies that didn't score well were embarrassed and started working within. Very quickly those companies realized they're not going to get the best straight talent or gay talent.
Absolutely.
Because non-gay people don't want to go work for those companies either. So for a lot of different reasons it started the competition, and now most of the Fortune 500 companies score really well. Wow. What we're going to do in Canada is we're going to develop a rating system for churches, synagogues, and mosques in Canada.
Similar to the Human Rights Campaign in the States.
And we're going to rate them, we're going to publish it. And so we're going to say which ones are really LGBT friendly and which ones aren't, which ones are pretending to be, but really discriminate under the cover, and which ones think they are, but they've done nothing to educate their congregation, etc. We'll develop resources to say to congregations, if you want to, score better,
absolutely,
and if you want to be higher, not only in terms of answering the questions, but also in terms of how do you change the culture of your faith-based organizations. And so we're always going to have to raise money, hire an executive director, hire staff, have piles of volunteer teams, because each of the faith-based resources will have to have teams.
This conversation about religious-based homophobia is it has the power to tip the scale.
Yeah, and I honestly believe that we can change public opinion in a generation. When you see how fast things have changed in
and how
America,
fast people get information.
The difference between the challenge and the bad, the good and the bad of this, is that if you're a person of color, then in 99.9% of the situations, you come home to safety.
Yeah.
If you come home to other people of color in your family, right? But if you're a gay person, you don't have that kind of a commonality, right? When you think of the number of LGBT folks around the world who are being kicked out of their homes, being kicked out of their faith communities, if we can make a difference in their lives, that goes far beyond the change of public policy.
And I think there's something to what you said about the power of the people.
What public opinion polls in Canada have told us, that people oppose LGBT human rights historically in Canada for two reasons. One, religious-based homophobia, and that's been constant. But the other one is when people said they don't know anyone who's gay. And that's why we've always said that coming out is the most powerful thing that anyone can do to advance gay rights and stuff. And so how do we facilitate that so that more and more people are empowered to come out and to experience safety and love and acceptance when they do? One of the things we are doing in the short term, this November in Toronto, the Parliament of World Religions is having their conference.
Parliament of World Religions.
And meets about every 3 years, 10, 12,000 people from around the world. And I am so excited. And this is the first time it's being announced publicly. I'm so excited to say that for the very first time we have some LGBT content. There's an openly gay man who's going to be one of the plenary speakers, and a few of us have got together and we submitted a bunch of workshop proposals and panels, and we've gotten 4 of them accepted. So for the very first time ever for the Parliament of World Religions, there will be LGBT content in the official program. And so there'll be quite a buzz. And so we're raising some money now to bring some activists from around the world who deal with religious-based homophobia and trying to fight it. And so we're bringing some of them to the conference to be on the panels. And then we're doing a one-day conference on November the 8th on confronting religious-based homophobia, when we meet with those activists and we say, what's going on out there? Tell us more. What do you think is needed? And here's a model. So by then we'll have some ideas about a model. Here's a model that we're working on. Do you think this would help? So we have a chance to shift or change or refine the model based on that feedback. And then we hope that probably very early next year that we'll officially launch the Rainbow Faith and Freedom movement.
Absolutely. So where do people go if they're really interested in being a part of this, even though it's just, it's at its beginning right now?
Absolutely, and very much at its beginning. I'm meeting with a group of folks. We're forming the vision, the mission, the strategies, getting the structure.
So for those watching at home, where can they go?
All we have right now is rainbowfaithandfreedom@gmail.com, just an email address. Eventually we'll have a website. Eventually there'll be a place for people to donate money.
Absolutely. Save your money. Get it ready.
Make this possible. I hope that you'll have me back again
when
all of this is set up.
Happily have you back again.
And thank you. And so when we can say to people, okay, here's the website, here's where you can go, here's where
we want to show the progress. People may have thought that MCC was your legacy, and this is clearly just that brought you to this next phase.
No, I'm very pleased and very thankful for the opportunity. I've spent the 40 years with MCC Toronto, and very happy with what we've accomplished together at the church. But I really do believe that my biggest contribution's in front of me.
Yeah.
That the Rainbow Faith and Freedom movement will have more of an impact.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the work you're doing and continue to do. Thank you for being on Queer from the Couch. And we will be in touch more when there's more to report.
Great.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Subscribe to the channel if you've never been here before. Like this video. All of the information about Brent is going to be in the description, so you can email him if you're really interested in being a part of this movement. And we'll see you next week. You're still called Reverend?
Yep. Yeah. I retired from that position, but I'm still a clergy. I still do weddings. I still do funerals. I still do all my human rights stuff.
Oh, you do that? You do all this stuff?
Yep.
Right.